Home prices are up 60% since 2019. The median house in America costs $412,000. Electricity bills have jumped 47% in 5 years. Water costs are up 59%. And if you want to live near the ocean, forget it, unless you know where to look. Because while everyone's fighting over Miami condos and California beach houses, there are 7 coastal towns where you can still buy a home for under $300,000. Some under $200,000, and we're not talking about landlocked suburbs 2 hours from the water. These are actual beach towns, with sand, with waves, with that salty air you've been dreaming about since your last corporate meeting. The catch? They're not where you think. Mississippi has 2 of them, Texas has 2 more, and the others are hiding in plain sight on the Atlantic coast, quietly offering everything the expensive beach towns promise, minus the financial panic attack. So if you've been telling yourself coastal retirement is dead, here's what the real estate agents in Naples and Charleston aren't mentioning. Pascagoula is the most affordable beach town in the entire country. For the second year running, median list price sits at $165,610. You can find fully renovated 2-bedroom houses within walking distance of the beach for under $140,000. This is a 300-year-old city with antebellum architecture and a shipbuilding legacy that kept it industrial instead of touristy, which is exactly why the prices stayed sane. No luxury resort developers showed up to triple the cost of everything. Just working-class maritime families who built a real town instead of a vacation fantasy. And here's where Mississippi pulls ahead of every other state. 0 taxes on retirement income. Social Security, not taxed. Pension, not taxed. Your 401k withdrawals, not taxed. If you're pulling $40,000 a year in retirement, you're paying 0 state income tax. Meanwhile, that same income gets hit with 4 to 6% in half the coastal states you're probably considering. Property taxes run about 0.7% effective rate. Seniors over 65 get an enhanced homestead exemption that wipes out state property tax on the first $7,500 of your home's value. Between the income tax exemption and the property breaks, you're keeping an extra few $100s every single month compared to most alternatives. Healthcare is anchored by Singing River Health System. They run a dedicated geriatric outpatient clinic for anyone over 50, chronic care management, wellness programs. 83% of patients report excellent communication from nursing staff, which matters more than you think when you're navigating Medicare and prescription refills. The town itself feels laid back in a way that manufactured beach communities never quite pull off. There's Jimmy Buffett Beach Park, named after the guy who grew up here before he started singing about cheeseburgers. You can kayak the Pascagoula River. You can walk through historic districts that actually have history instead of faux vintage paint jobs from 2015. Crime rates are higher than some suburbs, but the city's been running aggressive revitalization projects and community policing efforts. It's not Mayberry. It's a real working town. But if you want ocean access for the price of a used sedan, Pascagoula is the answer. If Pascagoula feels too small, Gulfport gives you Mississippi's second largest city at 17.4% below the national cost of living. Median home value is $188,000. Monthly mortgage payments average $1,152. Median rent is $797, which means you could sell your house in Pennsylvania or Oregon, buy a place in Gulfport outright, and bank $50,000 to $100,000 in leftover equity to pad your retirement accounts. But the real story is Sage Health. It's a neighborhood health center built exclusively for people over 55. Every physician maxes out at 400 patients. Not 2,000, not 800, 400. That's concierge-level primary care without the concierge price tag. They focus on chronic disease management, preventive screenings, and the kind of appointment length that actually lets you ask questions. Memorial Hospital at Gulfport earned national recognition for surgical outcomes. If something serious happens, and at some point, something always does, you're not getting shipped 2 hours away to the nearest trauma center. You're already there. The city sits right on white sand beaches, with 14% of the population over 65, which means there's a built-in social network of people in the same life stage. Senior centers run year-round programming. There are walking trails under moss-covered oaks. Downtown has actual character instead of the chain store blandness you get in newer developments. And you're close to Biloxi if you want casinos or bigger entertainment venues. But Gulfport itself keeps that southern coastal charm people talk about and rarely deliver. This is 72,000 residents with all the tax benefits Pascagoula has. Zero state tax on retirement income, low property taxes, senior exemptions, but with the infrastructure of a real city. Corpus Christi is the largest city on this list. 100 miles of coastline. Cost of living 16.5% below the national average. Median home value $202,525. For a city this size, that price is absurd. You get neighborhoods like Bay Area with premium boating access and beachfront proximity. You get Ingleside and Aransas Pass for quieter, more eclectic vibes just a short drive from downtown. The trade-off. Some of those coastal views include oil refineries. Industrial infrastructure keeps prices down. If you need pristine postcard scenery with zero visual disruptions, this might not be your spot. But if you want functional beach access without the financial mauling, Corpus delivers. Texas has no state income tax. Your Social Security stays yours. Your retirement account distributions stay yours. Property taxes run higher than Mississippi. But when your house costs $200,000 instead of $500,000, the absolute tax bill is still manageable. And groceries, utilities, and services all trend cheaper than national averages, which stretches a fixed income further than you'd expect. The outdoor recreation is legitimately world-class. Portions of Padre Island National Seashore and Mustang Island State Park fall within city limits. 70-plus miles of undeveloped coastline, birdwatching that draws people from across the country, kayaking, windsurfing. The Texas State Aquarium and the USS Lexington Museum give you year-round cultural options when you're tired of sand. Corpus Christi also built itself around the winter Texan population, retirees who spend cold months in South Texas. That means the infrastructure, the healthcare, the community programming, all cater to older adults. It's not an accident. It's the business model. Port Lavaca is what happens when you take Corpus Christi's industrial energy and strip it down to a sleepy fishing village. Median list price hovers around $292,000. Average rent for a two-bedroom apartment falls under $1,000 a month. Cost of living sits 18% below the national average, driven by cheap groceries and services that haven't been inflated by tourist demand. 18% of the population is over 65. You're not pioneering some retiree movement. You're joining an established community of people who moved here for the same reasons you're considering it. The vibe centers entirely on Laguna Madre Bay, fishing, birdwatching, small-town seafood joints where locals and winter Texans mix without the self-consciousness you get in resort areas. This is for people who find Corpus Christi too busy, who don't need 4 hospital systems and 90 golf courses, who want water access and low living costs and the kind of quiet that actually lets you hear yourself think. Same Texas tax benefits apply. No state income tax, full retention of Social Security and retirement distributions. And because Port Lavaca never became a tourist destination, it never developed tourist pricing. Pensacola has a 450-year-old downtown, sugar-white beaches, and a cost of living 11% below the national average. Median home value runs $296,312. Median rent sits at $1,013. Neighborhoods like Gulf Breeze and Navarre Beach earn A-plus ratings for safety and community engagement. You're getting the Florida beach experience without the Miami or Naples financial brutality. The city's identity is tied to military history, Naval Air Station Pensacola, Blue Angels. That legacy created superior veterans health care and robust VA services. Even if you're not former military, the infrastructure benefits everyone. The town has a disciplined, well-maintained feel that appeals to retirees who value stability over chaos. And unlike the manufactured beach developments thrown up in the past 20 years, Pensacola has actual historic depth. Museums, forts, the Gulf Islands, National Seashore. You can spend your time exploring instead of wandering another identical boardwalk lined with the same 15 franchise restaurants. Florida has no state income tax, same as Texas, but Florida also has a homeowner's insurance crisis. Average coastal premiums hit $3,901 in 2025. That's a real cost. You're saving on taxes but paying more for insurance. It's a trade-off you need to calculate before you move. Still, the Emerald Coast lifestyle, world-class fishing, boating, golf, delivers what people imagine when they think about Florida retirement, just at a price point that won't require selling a kidney. Daytona Beach is famous for racing and 23 miles of hard-packed sand, but it's also home to a massive retiree population paying 5.1% less than the national average cost of living. Median home value is $301,815. The condo market is huge, which gives you ocean view options that cost less and require less maintenance than single-family homes. Communities like Latitude Margaritaville offer resort-style amenities at prices that don't require a trust fund. 20% of the population is over 65. You're moving into an established retirement hub, not hoping one develops around you. Halifax Health Medical Center operates a 767-bed hospital with the area's only Level 2 trauma center. Advent Health runs multiple imaging and specialty centers across the city. If you need advanced care, it's here. You're not gambling on small-town clinics with limited capacity, but the insurance situation is real. Florida's coastal insurance crisis applies here too. Nuisance flooding during high tides is increasing. The state is investing in emergency management and infrastructure resilience, but these are long-term projects. You need to factor climate risk and insurance costs into any Florida decision. That said, Daytona offers Atlantic Coast access without the West Palm Beach or Miami financial absurdity. If you want Florida but don't want to liquidate your entire retirement portfolio for the down payment, this is where the math starts working. Myrtle Beach transformed from seasonal tourist trap to year-round retirement destination. Cost of living 9.6% below the national average. Median home value $347,457. That's the highest price on this list, but South Carolina's tax structure makes up the difference. Social Security is not taxed. Residents over 65 get a $15,000 deduction against any taxable income, plus a $10,000 deduction for retirement account withdrawals. Between those breaks and low property taxes for long-term residents, your effective tax burden can drop below Florida's, especially if you're pulling modest retirement income. The area has 4 major hospital systems. Grand Strand Health operates a Level 1 trauma center with specialized cardiac and stroke programs. You're getting metropolitan-level healthcare in a beach town. 24% of the population is over 65, creating a dense social network of peers. There are over 90 golf courses, an iconic boardwalk, 60 continuous miles of beach across the Grand Strand. Surrounding towns like Surfside Beach and Murrells Inlet offer quieter residential vibes while keeping you close to the main amenities. You're not stuck choosing between isolation and overcrowding. The region gives you options, and South Carolina is actively competing for retirees. The tax incentives aren't accidental. The state wants your spending power and your stability. They built the policy framework to make relocation attractive.